Welcome, everyone. We will start the webinar now. Welcome to the second in our three-part series from Lexer. So today we are going to discuss how to unleash retail success through customer experiences, and talk about the power of a customer data and experience platform, or a CDXP. We love acronyms in MarTech, and Lexer's AI tools. I heard people were getting a little bit fed up of just listening to me, which is fair. So I'm joined by Aaron Luxmoore, who is head of sales for Australia and New Zealand for Lexer as well.
Hey, everyone.
Good to have some company. A little bit of housekeeping, guys. So if you've got questions, please hit us with questions. Put them in the Zoom chat. There are going to be a few polls throughout, so you'll see them pop up. So please participate in those. If you've got any comments, if you've got anything as well, then please just weigh in on the content. And yes, we are recording and we will share this later. You can share it with colleagues. And obviously, for people that are watching the recording, thank you for viewing. And there's a survey at the end as well. So if you could just fill in a survey for us, we love feedback on these, so please fill that in as well. And with that, we have our first poll, just to firstly gauge the experience within the room and also check that the polls are working. And I'll hand over to you, Aaron.
Sure. Let's just see what comes in with the familiarity, because I want to make sure we're addressing the right skill level within the room. So we've got majority coming through, it looks like, as familiar but not using. And then a fair bit, 33% not sure, 67% familiar but not using. Awesome. So while those numbers continue to come in, we do acknowledge that we've got a variety of different skill levels on the call. So we are going to cover the fundamentals for those that are unfamiliar with customer data platforms or customer data and experience platforms, but hopefully there'll be something in there for the more experienced people too. But if you are someone who is more experienced, it'd be great for you to really get involved in the chat and the poll so that you can help others on the call as well. So understanding CDXP. So in this section, we'll cover the what. So what is a customer data and experience platform? What are the benefits for you in adopting a CDXP? And what's the opportunity cost? So what does maintaining the status quo look like versus what could you gain from implementing a CDXP? So what is the problem that CDPs set out to solve? That's the first thing we want to cover. So we've highlighted the 4 most common ones here, and I speak to retailers daily, and they all experienced some or often all of these problems. So the first one is that they really want to understand their customers better from a truly omnichannel point of view, but they can't because bits of the data is usually missing or it's unstructured, sitting in multiple different platforms. And so this means that they're going to their IT team to extract the data from all these different platforms. They're putting it into a spreadsheet and then asking that spreadsheet to be sent to them. And then often that data is out of date by the time they get it back. So really, we could probably add another problem here, which is being time poor or the speed to get the data as well. Number 2 is the technical element. So often the tools that people are using are far too technical for the everyday person. They're built for people with data brains, and it's really frustrating having to rely on the IT team, or worse still, to have to actually employ an analytics specialist or a data scientist to decipher the data. A good CDP will be really easy for anyone in the business to use, like from a junior marketing person, like a coordinator, to the CMO, as well as product specialists. And I hear retailers often tell me that they've implemented tech and it's just so hard to use that no one really uses it. And so, like, a massive waste of money. Number 3 is what we call the concept of SaaS spaghetti or Frankenstack. And this is where you've got a tech stack that is not complete or it's disconnected and, quite frankly, a mess. And most retailers have a stack that is relatively complex. So there's at least 5 to 6 platforms. And there are some retailers that I've spoken to that have like 15 or 20 different types of stack that's all connected together. So a CDP or a CDXP will bring all of that together and give you a single source of truth in one centralized place. And the fourth one is higher expectations. So I'm sure all of you guys on the call feel this, that customers have higher expectations than ever before. So no longer can you just give a generic one-size-fits-all experience for your customers. You need to like really know who they are and personalize the experience, use the data that you've got and give them what they're expecting to see. A CDXP will allow you to use the data instead of basing things on a hunch to communicate more personally with each of your customers. All right, there's a lot on this next slide. But before I explain, I just wanted to also call out that sometimes you'll hear the term CDP and sometimes CDXP. So a CDXP is similar to a CDP. However, the X emphasizes the word experience, and that's referring to all the things that you can actually do with the data once you've got it. So let me explain how a CDXP works. So on the left-hand side here is where I'm going to start. It's all of the different types of raw data that gets ingested into the platform from your different sources. So think your point of sale, your e-com store, your marketing automation, loyalty, reviews, customer service, anywhere you've got data. So then that data is enriched. So calculations are made to work out things like your customer lifetime value, your return rate, average order value across your channels, etc. And then predictive calculations are applied as well from the data from of all of your customers. So things like next best product, churn risk, date of next order. And then when you look at where it says understand here, this is the heart of the CDP. So this is where you go to analyze, to compare, to segment your customers. It's where you'll use the data and the insights to help with your future marketing strategies and even product and store strategies as well. We'll touch on that a bit later. A CDP isn't just for marketing teams. They're probably the heaviest users, yes, but anyone in the business who needs to understand your customers should be using the CDP if you have one. Then moving over to engage. This is where this is why we say CDXP at Lexer, because this is where you go to actually use the data across your paid and owned marketing channels and in store as well. A best in breed CDXP will not only connect back to your Google and social and email campaigns, but it'll actually allow you to also send one-to-one messages to your customers to give them a more personalized experience, as well as connect back in store or connecting to third-party on-site personalization platforms as well. And then finally, measure. So it's all good and well to have all this data and even use it to drive more personalized marketing, but you can't improve what you can't measure. So a top class CDXP will have a customizable measurement and reporting dashboard so that you can track the performance of those segments. So you can see how you're tracking towards specific goals and even to measure performance of the team or performance at store level as well. This next slide is a really powerful stat, which I love to show. McKinsey & Co, they're the most reputable global management consultants. And they say that if you don't have a strategy to grow and maintain your first party data, you're going to be spending up to 20% more on marketing to get the same results as businesses who do have that focus. And a CDP focuses purely on unlocking that. We say it's the most vital business asset that you've got, which is your owned customer data. So if you want to save on marketing costs, CDP is where you need to go. And this is why digital media agencies absolutely love us, because when a client onboards a CDP, the agency starts looking good as well because they're performing much better than ever before. So let's touch a little bit on AI. We're now all completely absorbed into the world of AI. So what are the advantages of an AI-powered CDXP? So firstly, you're going to have accelerated interpretation of the data. It's in almost real time in a lot of cases. And Lexer's even created an AI assistant that will actually interpret the data for you, along with providing recommendations, which makes it faster and easier to understand your customers. And this is where those junior marketing coordinators can now use a CDP as well without having to rely on senior people in the business. Then cheaper. We hate the word cheaper, but due to the time that you will save and the ability to be able to self-serve this data means the efficiencies across your teams are phenomenal. It frees up you and your IT team to spend like more time on other important tasks rather than having to dig through spreadsheets. And then better. So the ability to deliver exceptional one-to-one personalization, that's an amazing element, which of course is going to lead to an increase in customer loyalty. And if we look at some benchmarks, people love to see some numbers. What's the potential cost of doing nothing and continue to do what you're currently doing versus the gains by adopting a CDP and the insights you can obtain? So if you remember back to the slide of McKinsey & Co., they said you'll have to spend up to 20% more on marketing without a CDXP or without focusing on first-party data. So these here are some average benchmarks that we have obtained across all of our clients. So these are increases that you'll see and what you can expect for yourself after a full year of deploying a CDXP. So the first one there, acquisition. So we see an average of 11% increase in new customers compared to your normal acquisition numbers. We see an increase of about 8% on top of your normal customer lifetime value. And we see an increase of 12% in your customer retention on what you're currently getting at the moment. So the growth you're missing out on is quite amazing. I think we're going to go over to a poll now. So out of those ones mentioned, acquisition, growth, or retention, or you're not really sure, it'd be great to see which one's the more of a focus for you. If you had to pick one, which would be the focus? And I'm going to have a sip of water.
We like seeing how these change over time as well. It's been we always ask this question, sort of what's the focus? Is it acquisition, growth, or retention? And the last 12, 24 months, there's certainly been, it was all about acquisition 24 months ago. Growth and retention weren't really in the picture. We are seeing it from here. Acquisition is still important. Growth and retention is becoming more and more important. Super interesting.
Yeah, anecdotally, well, I've got just a few more people to put their submission in. Anecdotally, a lot of people that I speak to are focusing more on retention now, but this poll is showing that growth is the highest at the moment, then acquisition and retention, but they're all quite even. And it's funny how many times I'll ask this of a retailer that I'm doing a demo to, and they'll say, oh, we're focusing on all three. Everyone's trying to focus on everything. But some examples of acquisition. So acquisition, I'll actually go with growth because that's the highest one. So how can a CDXP help with that? So knowing when your customers are likely to buy next and what they're likely to buy will help you make sure that your cross-sell recommendations are ones that will actually convert. And things also like knowing how many one-time buyers you've got and who they are, and knowing what products they're most likely to buy to be able to convert them into a second-time buyer would be an example of how it will help with growth. In terms of acquisition, which is the next most popular, an example would be identifying who your high lifetime value customers are, creating a lookalike audience off them. And then another one is ensuring that the products attract new customers. They're the ones that you lead with, the right products that attract new customers in your creative. I'll just move on because of the interest of time. So over to Ben. I'll have a break from talking now.
Thanks, Aaron. I'll take the next session. So moving on from Aaron's what, we're sort of going into the why now. So why should you orchestrate these personalized experiences? And this is sort of a fundamental truth for pretty much all retailers, is that 20% of your customers will actually be responsible for 60 to 80% of your revenue. So it's the 20-80 concept is called the Pareto principle. It's the most technical, sophisticated term you'll hear in the presentation today, but it comes up a lot everywhere. It's not just in retail. The 20-80 is really common. And going even more extreme, you'll see that your top 5% of customers will likely generate the top 40% of your revenue. And so how is this relevant to a CDXP? This really signifies a shift in thinking just about what generates sales, but what generates long-term revenue and growth. So we're very, very focused on customer lifetime value and how the decisions you make within your business can impact that customer lifetime value and what insights you can get to help you make decisions differently. And if we think about experiences, like clearly where you focus your time and effort for which groups of customers you're going to be in terms of revenue and growth, you're going to be wanting to focus a disproportionate amount of time on that top group of customers. And most retailers aren't. Most are thinking about what generates a sale, very much cost of acquisition, and looking at things through a sales metric. We encourage to think more of a customer lifetime value metric. And so going to why is customer experience so important? And look, we recognize that you can't create a really personal, relevant, handmade message and experience for every single customer. So firstly, think about the ones that it's going to have, you want to drive the most impact from. And then secondly, why is experience even important? So if your top 20% of your customers that generate most of your revenue are opting out of your email communications, we know they're going to have a lower lifetime value. So if you're sending email communications that aren't relevant to them, or you're spamming them, or you're sending things which they just aren't reading at all, then that is going to impact your customer lifetime value. The other is many brands have a lot of one-time buyers. It's a reality for most retailers. And if you can drive that second purchase, so for new customers that are not in that top 20% yet, but if you can start to drive that second purchase, we know that two-time buyers are 9 times more likely to make that repeat purchase than someone who's only bought once. So driving from that first to second is such a critical step so that you can move more customers into that higher echelon of the top 20%. And you can look at what signals you see with how that top 20% have purchased from you. What do they do next? So in that top 20%, based on the channel they buy, the time of year they buy, the product, the price they spent, what have that top 20% done in the past that you can use as information for if you're getting a first-time customer where you don't know a lot about them? You can shift the odds in your favor based on the price, the product, the time of year, to have signals so you can know how to encourage that next time purchase. Really simple question. So most retailers tell us this is quite hard. We're curious, how able are you today, in a reasonably short space of time, in a space of time that's useful for you? How do you know how many one-time buyers you have? If we gave you 5-10 minutes to go and to get an approximate answer, we're curious as to how many would even know how many one-time buyers you have. Reasonably even split, seeing, so more no's or unsures than yeses. I'm guessing the unsures are maybe not retailers, they're partners. But the point of this as well is, like, if you don't know the state of play, then you don't know the opportunity. So that's first role of, it's more about the data than the experience. Is what are the big opportunities you have in how many one-time buyers there are, and is it healthy or is it unhealthy? How many of your customers are generating that top 60 to 80% of revenue? So interesting. Yeah, more no's than yeses for the one-time buyers. Don't worry, guys, we hear that a lot. And look, personalized customer experiences are not a nice to have, like, especially with times as they are right now. Like, consumer spending is down. So as inflation and cost of living is moving up a little bit, the ability to get the customer dollar and differentiate yourself is even harder. And broadly, customer experience is that differentiator. And some more stats from McKinsey here. 76% of customers, they get frustrated, fed up, they back out of the buying experience if the experiences are jarring and not in fit with what they would expect. But on the upside, if you can produce relevant and more personalized experiences, it can boost revenue by up to 40%. But the question isn't how do I create a personalized relevant experience for everyone? It's which customer is most important to create those. We know you don't have the full bandwidth and resource ability, and capability to do this for everyone, but you can shift those odds in your favor. It's like, which are the customers that are most important or look like they would be the most important in the future that are worth spending more time to create those personalized experiences? If you don't know, you're not matching your time and effort to your reward. And the second part is knowing which experiences will resonate. It's all well and good to say we'll create great experiences, but it's not going to be the same for everyone. And if you're guessing, then you're wasting time and you're losing customers. And there's two extremes. You either have one experience that's the same for everyone, or you're trying to do personal experiences for everyone. Now, neither of those extremes are, one's not feasible and one's obviously not creating personalized experiences. So you can be led by the data in the CDXP to know where to prioritize your time and get insights on what sort of experiences are going to resonate with certain groups of customers versus others. Okay, we've done the what, the why, now we're into the how. So how can you enhance customer experiences with customer data? Now, we could spend forever on this. This is broadly our main job, is helping retailers with the how. We've only got about 15 minutes or so, so I will keep this really brief. But we think about customer experiences in four reasonably broad areas. You've got your marketing experiences. You've got one-to-one interactions with customers. Obviously, a lot and most of the interactions happen in store, as well as digital channels, your digital stores, effectively, your apps and your websites. And we're going to give a couple of examples of each of these, but broad brush, marketing is about data-led segmentation and knowing where to prioritize your time and how to weight those percentages more in your favor, be more personalized to groups of customers that are going to have higher impact. One-to-one, it's really two main areas. Retention, delight your current VIPs that are responsible for maybe up to that 40% of revenue, and find signals for customers that look like your future VIPs so you can nurture them and accelerate that path and ensure you retain them as well. In-store, very, very simple. Help best guide the in-store experience as relevantly as possible to the customer and capture some information from where 90% of these sales exchanges happen to use for insights in the future. So much is lost in the store between a sales associate and a customer. If you can capture even a little bit more than you do today, that's going to be so much insight that you can use for marketing one-to-one and digital. From a digital perspective, it's about giving the customer the fewest clicks as possible to purchase. Put something in front of them on the screen. We all know attention spans are short and people are expecting to find something that's relevant to them. Recently, they don't browse for as long on a website as they will in a store. So it's really about fewest clicks to purchase and being able to test and optimize really, really quickly. Again, curiosity from us. Which of these areas do you think would have the biggest impact for you in terms of your revenue, your sales, if you could be a little bit better at improving experiences in those? So think about where you think you've got the most high value customers, where most of your customers are, and obviously your current capability to generate experiences that you think are really resonating. We haven't asked this question before, so I am not on a broad level, so I'm curious. Quite even.
All the marketing managers will surely think that their marketing is going to move the needle the most.
This is probably most people thinking I need to stay in my job. It's going to be my channel, whichever I look after. That's fair. So marketing and digital are the top two. I'm really interested that a store wasn't higher. Might show a bit of maybe that how the sort of propensity for stores on the call, but that's interesting. Okay. So I'm going to whiz through these reasonably quickly. These are some tips, tactics for things that you can take away, potentially even without you using a CDXP that you can use. But from a marketing perspective, we think of sort of 6 different parameters for how you can be more relevant to your customer. What products are going to resonate with them? What sort of price point do they buy? Do they buy premium products? Or do they buy the lower end of the spectrum? What's their preferred channel? Are they e-commerce only? Or are they stores only, or somewhere between the two? Their propensity for discount. Are they discount only hunters? Do they only buy at heavy discount? And time of year they buy. So you'll have a lot of seasonality. A lot of retailers have seasonality. Some customers align very closely with certain times of year as well. And really simply, what are they here to buy for? What is the purpose of the purchase? Now, all of these will link to customer lifetime value in some way. So there will be links towards customers for each of these channels that have different impact on customer lifetime value. And so you will then start to make decisions on which of these you focus on more and which sort of parts of these really correlate with higher customer lifetime value as well. So if we start with product. Okay. So this is a bit of a concept that we have, and I'll focus, I'll give you a bit of a view of what hero products are and what we're looking at here. So we've got customer lifetime value on the left. It's going from low at the bottom up to high. And there will be products that link with customer volume, again, from low to high. Every retailer, through their range of products, will have products which correlate with low volume of customers through to high, as well as low value customers over time through to high. Now, in an ideal world, you have a lot of hero products. These are ones that generate a lot of volume, and customers who buy them spend a lot. It correlates with them repeat purchasing. And on the flip side, you will have certain products which don't generate either, and there'll be underperformers. And you would have products which maybe generate a lot of volume. They're great for cross-sell and upsell, but they're not really correlated with high customer lifetime value. And the last one, high-value niches. These are generally products which don't sell at high volume, but customers who do buy them tend to be really high value. They're sort of like the hidden gold, if you like. That's not always immediately obvious in sales. These won't be particularly high sales items, but when they're bought, they will correlate with customers returning over and over and spending a lot more with you. And there's a simple use case for how you do your acquisition. So we saw that acquisition was still a focus. You want customers to acquire a product that is connected to high lifetime value and not products that relate to one-time buyers or low spend. And so if you can identify your hero products, you can start to overlay filters around recency so that you're looking at current set of data and you're using a group of customers that are bought in the last 12 months. We know that opt-in is important. So if you can then start to overlay and filter through to groups of customers that opt in, gender is so important for lookalike. The way that males and females engage on Facebook is completely different, even if they buy similar products from you. This is putting this into something like a Facebook or a Google channel where the engagement is going to be so different between gender and perhaps age as well. And obviously value. So a simple formula to build a great lookalike audience is starting with the hero products and then looking at recency, the engagement with you, the gender, and obviously the spend. And you can end up with then a really good segment of customers that you can use for a lookalike. Why do people buy? So going to reason for purchase. Really simple one. Are they gifting or are they buying for themselves? So just think of this from I think of this from a personal perspective. Like if I buy a pair of earrings from a jeweler for my wife, it's because I probably have an anniversary coming up in about 2 days. And knowing that I've bought as a gift versus assuming I bought for myself should take me down a very different path. Because if I'm getting emails every week offering me more earrings, I'm just going to switch off, unsubscribe. Whereas there's a little bit of thought and ask, like, hey, was this for you? If you can infer my gender, so we can infer gender based on first name, that's a great clue. If I bought a female product and I've got a male name, you can start to infer they might be a gender. And you can start to actually be able to also ask surveys, ask them things like, hey, we assume this was for a gift. What's your anniversary date so we can remind you in the future? When's your wife's birthday? And then your marketing can be very much led around gifting and thinking about times of year. If I only receive 5 emails from this jeweler and it's before 5 important dates, I'm much more likely to connect with that because I'm going to see it, I'm going to take notice, and I will be likely leaving things to the last minute again. I'll take action. Seasonality. Some people just go mad for Singles Days and Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Others will buy at certain times of year because maybe they're buying for holidays and they shop when they're taking their holidays throughout the year. Looking at the time of when customers purchase from you and creating segments around groups of customers that only buy at certain types of year is really, really valuable. So you can make sure you connect with them most of that time of year and then reduce the exposure to irrelevant messages throughout the rest. And if you've got a big promotion as well, say, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, looking at customers you acquired 12 months ago at that time is a great audience to retarget. Quite often there's a lot of one-time buys in there, and they buy because things are at discount because that's the time of year they buy. You would want to retarget those again because of the propensity they have to buy at that time of year. Discount hunting. Some customers only buy at discount. Some buy at full price because they think discount's a bit cheap. Some buy a bit of both. So you want to build segments so that you can protect your margin as much as possible. If you've got people that only buy at discount, just send them the discount messages. If you've got customers that have a high propensity to buy at full price, you don't need to be sending them all the promo messages because they're actually more thinking about the product they're buying rather than how much of a bargain they're getting. So you can see really, really big lift through some quite simple discount segmentation and the way that you then communicate with those customers. Going to one-to-one. I'll pick up the pace a little bit. So one-to-one is not something you can manage for everyone. It's for those VIPs and those future VIPs. Now, you really want to be relevant to them. If you're doing one-to-one, it's really, really important to send a one-to-one message through, say, an email and a WhatsApp that you're being really, really personal. Now, we know that very high personalization can have a really, really high impact. So it's almost a bit of a no-brainer that brands want to be doing this, but it is extremely difficult to do at scale. But if you can do it at scale, sorry, next slide, please, Susanna, then there's really, really big upside. So picking out one stat here, 61% of customers expect brands to celebrate their milestones. So, hey, you've just reached a new loyalty status, or thank you for being with us for 5 years. These sort of little touches, they've got to be on a one-to-one level. That's not something you can do en masse. These little touches, they make a big difference in terms of retention. But it is super hard to do. We know that you don't have loads and loads of copywriters sitting around to write really personal messages. It's really, really hard to keep the brand tone really, really consistent between those. And it's not something that can be scaled with any high level of effectiveness. So we have a tool which we've recently launched, which we'd love some feedback on, which looks to help with this. And AI can have a massive impact here. So you inform the AI of your brand tone so that the messages sound like they come from you, but they're actually coming from an individual within the business. It could be the CEO, could be a store manager. This is a personal message to an individual customer from a named person within the business. Now, you will also inform the AI the reason for reaching out, and you'll have a group of customers that will sit in that. Let's say it's the VIPs that you want to say thank you, who've just reached their 5-year milestone this week. Might only be about 5-10 customers, but it will change every week. You will inform it of what you want to say. You want to say thank you for reaching that. You might want to mention their last purchase and if they're still loving it, and maybe to reach out if they have any questions. Once you've informed the AI of that, it will generate a message picking out relevant information from the customer profile in your brand tone. It will auto generate that for all the customers in that segment, and you just need to check it and click send. And then that can be done for different queues of customers for a different purpose much faster. So instead of 10 messages an hour, you'll be able to get to 150, 200 messages an hour to help you scale it for the really high value pockets. In store. So we're going to talk about clienteling. Now, clienteling is where when you greet the customer, you're actually guided by what you know about the customer. So you're creating a concierge premium service for that customer. It's not just asking them, hey, how can I help? And responding to customers' questions. We know there's really, really high value here. Customers who experience it spend a lot more and actually spend more on that individual purchase as well. And you can leverage the data you have within a CDXP for this experience directly. So you know what they bought in the past. You know how valuable they are and whether they only buy at discount or full price. You will know what they've done in other channels as well. So there's a lot of information that's really, really well set up for a CDXP to drive these clienteling experiences. And again, we know in retail, just like everywhere else, that it's really, really important to have a positive experience. More and more customers, we've all been there. You get frustrated with walking into a store, explaining everything about what you're looking for to a sales associate. You might run out of time. You go to the store again, you have to start from the beginning. And this poor experience, customers' tolerance for it is decreasing. Customers will walk away after a bad experience and not come back. And so it is extremely high value and worthwhile to be able to ensure that there is a great experience for the customer in store. Again, we have a product that we call Lexer Serve, where we are using the data in the CDXP to drive the experience, where a sales associate has a tablet. They ask the customer, have you shopped with us before? And if they have, they'll pull up the profile of that customer. Now, they're not given all of the information on the customer because it would be bombarding. They've only got, it's something that's much more simplified and gives the information they need, such as, is this a VIP customer? Do I give them the VIP experience? What products have they bought before, which can quickly guide me as to what's going to be relevant to them? Is it the color, the actual products, the price they buy at? And importantly, it's a way to capture information. So you can capture some information from that exchange that can go back into the CDXP for all teams to be able to use and access as well. Here's a screenshot of Lexer Serve. So you can really easily see that we're surfacing some information for Alex. We've got the visuals of the products they bought. We've got some information around their value, the channels they buy at, and their preferences and opportunities to capture things, more information about them as well. Now, also, it shouldn't just end in this exchange. There's a great, if you think about the one-to-one messaging I spoke about before, there's a great opportunity to close that loop. If someone comes into the store, shows interest in a high-value product, but maybe doesn't buy, a really personal one-to-one message from whoever was serving, let's say Alex in that store today, can be really powerful to drive them to that next purchase. Digital channels. I'll be quick, Aaron, then I'll hand back to you. Look, I think we know that if you visit a website, visit an app, and if you're looking for certain products, we know that it's going to be, if you can see those things as soon as you access the website, we know it's going to have a much higher conversion rate. But it's really hard to do this with multiple devices, multiple browsers, and even through the cookie information you might capture. If someone switches between these, it's really, really hard to keep that experience quite consistent. So using the CDXP is, again, another single source of truth to be able to apply that across any browser, any device, when they're visiting the website and app. And there's a couple of really simple ways. Firstly, if you can query the profile in the CDXP, just get the fundamentals right. If they're things like knowing their gender, knowing the sort of price point they shop at, two really simple things. You can very quickly query that information and then tailor what they're going to see on the website and app, so that if they're female, they're not being hit with a whole load of male products. If they're female, they want to see those female products straight in front of them as well. You can also leverage the product history. So use a product recommendation. So like us, many CDXPs have used AI to do next best product. You can go one level deeper and start actually showing the products which will mix and match products they've bought in the past, which is probably the most reason they're looking to purchase. Or if they're male, they're buying the same thing again because it fits. And lastly, taking this into customer service. So customer service is usually where it's a high churn risk for customers because they've got a complaint. And you can't offer every single customer a voucher and a discount in order to retain them. But if they're really high VIP, that top 5% or in that top 20%, it's worth it. You know it's worth it. So in these customer service exchanges, for certain customers, you can leverage the data in the CDXP to offer a discount off their next purchase and turn the customer service center, rather than a cost center, actually into a customer profit and growth center as well. Back to you, Aaron. Why invest?
Cool. For those that are watching the clock, there's 2 more slides that I'm going to go through, and then we have some case studies, but we are recording the session if you need to jump off as well. So why invest in a CDXP? So I'm going to touch on 4 main reasons. it's all good and well to talk about all these things, but if you can't actually measure the impact to the business, we know it's quite difficult, especially for those of you who are putting a case together for your boss. And we'd encourage you to come to us to get us to help you with a business case if you are doing that. So the first one is transformation. So becoming a data-led business. So things like having better quality data, having a better understanding of who your customers are, and then also increasing automation and speed to market will really transform the business, and it'll allow you to make decisions and form strategy based on data and insights rather than your gut or anecdotal comments around the water cooler. And then another impact is cost. So your marketing is going to be far more powerful if it's driven by a CDXP. So you'll reduce so much wastage of your marketing spend, where you may be targeting the wrong customers with the wrong message at the wrong time on the wrong platform, which means they're not converting. So I talked earlier as well about the reduction in time spent, and people's time is money, and it's hard to put a dollar amount on that as well. Most marketers and CFOs especially want to see things like an increase in your return on ad spend or a reduction in your cost per acquisition, because Facebook and Google is expensive. And another important one to mention is reduction in return rate. So we know that return rates are becoming higher and higher, and the cost to the company is high. So if you know your customers properly, you're more likely to get them to convert on the products that you know they won't need to return. Two more types of business impact. The third one is revenue. So you'll be increasing your customer lifetime value from suggesting more relevant upsells at the time they're most likely to buy. You're going to acquire higher value customers because you're targeting those who look like your existing high value customers rather than your entire database. And you'll be driving more engagement and reducing churn. So these things all come from things like increasing average order value, increasing repeat purchase, reducing time between orders, among many other things. And then lastly, every retailer tells us they want to be more customer centric. A lot of people say they are, and often they're really not that customer centric. A CDP will improve the customer experience by making sure that the interactions that you have with them are more relevant, more personalized, and are more engaging. We'll quickly touch on a couple of success stories or case studies now. So the first one is Rip Curl. We work with the Kathmandu group, and they've been with Lexer for 6 years now, I think, since 2018. They've had many of the same challenges that we've discussed today, but they also have quite a unique personalized experience. So many of the Rip Curl customers have a smartwatch. It's a Rip Curl app that goes on the smartwatch, and it tracks how often they surf, how long each session of surfing is, what conditions they're surfing in, that sort of thing. And before implementing Lexer, they had no central source of that data. They had no single source of truth. The smartwatch data was sitting separate to their e-com data, which was also siloed from their point of sales data. And they had no way of truly capturing all of this rich data and drawing insights from it that they could actually use in their marketing or to help with product decisions as well. So using Lexer, they first supercharged their personalized email experiences, drawing all the data from multiple sources, including from that smartwatch app data. And they created a really targeted surfer and wetsuit email campaign, which then also was used on their social ad campaigns as well. So knowing precisely when someone was likely to need a new wetsuit based on the amount of hours of surfing they have done was one of the examples. And they were able to tell the best type of wetsuit to promote for the conditions that they surf in, e.g. the thickness of the wetsuit based on how cold the water was that they surf in. So that's just two examples of some of the things they did. And it just points out that the CDXP isn't just for marketing, because using that data really helped them with their product development as well. And some of the key results on the right-hand side there was that they got 93% more revenue on their August campaign that was just mentioned when they used Lexer. They had 15 times higher revenue on the segments that were created in Lexer, a 16% increase in email click-through rate, and over 400,000 views of their YouTube content from audiences that were sent from Lexer to YouTube. So you can see there's huge opportunity for growth, no matter how unique the business is. Ben, and you've got one from Southeast Asia?
I do, and this is the last couple of slides, guys. If you do have any questions, we'll take them straight after this success story as well. So please put them in the chat now so that we can roll straight onto it. TGV Cinemas, Malaysian cinema group. This is a great example of a business moving from sales-led view of performance to customer lifetime view-led of performance. So they took on the CDP just after COVID, and cinema visits just after COVID were higher than ever. So the view from management was everything's great, everything's back to normal, everyone's going back to the cinema, and really their marketing was pretty basic. Blockbuster films coming out, they'd hit all customers with all films that were coming out. So very much campaign-led, batch-led email strategy. But actually the reality was the cinema goers weren't all their loyal customers from before. Only about 25% of their top customers are actually returning. And there was a whole load of new people, that the novelty of going to the cinema. So that lifetime view lens of the business changed their decision-making. It actually made them a little worried, but they had an opportunity. They needed to get those high-value, repeat visit cinema goer people back that hadn't returned. But they also had a whole load of opportunities with new customers that they could nurture to retain them. If they had continued going as they were, they would assume everything was the same and it would have dropped off. So what they did is they started segmenting their email based on which types of films people like to view, which type of hall, do they go for gold class or did they go for the standard, and which time of the week they're going with their family, they're going on date night. And they made a really, really hard push to get back those high value, loyal customers back as well. So they saw an increase in NPS with this. They saw a 2x increase in visits from those loyalty members, and their email metrics improved massively due to the relevance of them. Conclusion: customer lifetime value is king. Looking at everything from a sales perspective doesn't give you the full picture. You don't have to create a single experience for every single person. It's about being better than you are today and focusing on the customers that are worth focusing on. And for a few, go above and beyond. The really, really high value customers, that one-to-one and that really personal touch can have really, really high impact. Hey, Lex, do you want to finish?
Yeah, and then just recapping on focusing on first-party data in general is going to reduce your marketing costs by up to 20%. That you need to truly know who your customers are to be able to give them that personalized experience and move the metrics like lifetime value, average order rate, acquisition, click-through rates, etc. And just to have a think about what you're missing out on just by continuing to do what you're currently doing. And lastly, CDXPs are not just for marketing teams. They can transform the entire business to be data-led.
That is all. If you want to connect with us, especially Aaron is a LinkedIn king and shares loads and loads of great content, which I copy and paste and then put into mine. So you can follow either of us and you'll get Aaron's content. And obviously follow Lexer on LinkedIn. If there are any questions, I know we're over time, but if we have a couple of minutes if there are any questions that come in. If not, thank you so much for joining us, guys. Really appreciate it.